I had to replace the bulb on this Toyota Vitz, aka Yaris, the side indicator bulb, which is the little low-powered thing mounted on the fender panel. Now, normally on any sensible car, this one here is from my Ford, you would be able to take it off, remove the bulb via a plug out the back, replace the little 501 bulb inside, and off you go. However, these Toyota things, I was shocked to discover, are these sealed units with the same 501 bulbs in that do burn out often enough, and there's no way to get inside it. When the bulb dies, you're expected to throw it out and buy a whole new unit. Frankly, I think this is pretty poor in terms of maintenance costs, never mind environmental concerns. So Ford 1, Toyota 0 today. Anyway, when one of these bulbs blows, you can do what Toyota wants you to do, or you could rip this lens off and replace the bulb itself regardless. This is perfectly feasible. As you see here, I've cracked this lens cover off already. It didn't take much encouragement, and with it removed, you can see the bulb. You can also see the low energy effort from Toyota in terms of the reflector, just grey plastic. It's not even chrome plated. There's no silvering. Anyway, the bulb is just an amber-coated 501 or T10 wedge bulb. They're 5 watts and 2 a penny anywhere on the planet. So you could renew this, or to upgrade this and avoid having to do it in the future, you could put in a good quality amber retrofit LED, which is also what I did to my Ford a while back. These are Philips bulbs, and then they'd likely outlast the car. Whatever you do, you would need to ensure that the bulb is an all-around type, not just forward firing, and it also needs to be very close to the size and shape of the original 501s, because there's not a lot of space inside this lens housing. You can see the bulb in this shot and how any weird LED that's oversized will not fit. And then you would put the lens back on top, and to do that I would just glue it with a clear plastic compatible epoxy or possibly clear silicone if you run a small bead around the inside of this lip on the lens and then put it back together and let it dry. That should sort it out for you. However, as you can tell, I have not done that because I found a better solution yet, which is this, and it's what I'd call the third option. You replace the entire unit as intended by Toyota, but with these dedicated LED units, which hail from the other side of the East China Sea, let's say. To be fair, this is probably the most expensive option, but not by much if you do want LEDs, because those Philips bulbs I showed you are a bit pricey anyway, and you'll probably be replacing them more often than the incandescent ones if you use the cheapies off eBay. And these will perform better because they're designed from scratch with the LED in mind. It's sort of hard to see in there behind the lens, but there's a long line of SMD, surface-mounted device LED chips just arranged horizontally, and I expect that these will be brighter and clearer than the Toyota factory lights. And I will, of course, put links to get these below. And by the way, you can see that these are listed for the Yaris Mk2, or the Vitz, which is this car. Also the RAV4 and the Auris, and possibly other Toyotas, but I'm fairly sure that if you have a popular Toyota at least, you'd be able to find the equivalent to suit, so just search around. Now on replacing these, you slide them to one side or the other, whichever moves a little, then pull it out from the opposite side. Then the electrical connector is released by holding down this lever on its clip. You can see how it moves here. They can be a bit stiff and resistant if they're old and a bit gummed up. And then I like to add a little electrical protectant spray on the terminals, especially here as rain and road water will get around this plug. And then the new unit will just push on. Now, these Chinese LEDs have a straight socket, by the way. You will have noticed that the factory ones here on my car had a right angle elbow, but it doesn't seem to make any difference. They fit just fine. Then the light goes back in the fender panel the same way it came out. They are symmetrical, but actually only go in one way. So if it's not working at first, then try turning it 180 and see if that's better. So these come in pairs, and I did both sides, of course. They don't cause any issues with bulb out warnings or hyper flashing speed. As you see here, they work fine. And I really like them. They're a big upgrade to this little Yaris. They're brighter, they're more distinctive, and the horizontal line of LEDs is a much nicer shape than the silly little circle you got with the factory unit because of the lack of any proper reflector inside. Now here are those photos compared. These are both taken with identical exposure settings, so there you are. Alright, I always like an excuse to play with LEDs, but I originally expected to be putting in retrofit 501 bulbs here when I first knew I needed to replace them. So it was an interesting outcome thanks to Toyota's weird little cost-cutting choices. But these new units are performing pretty nicely. I think they're a nice upgrade that doesn't cost much, so I'd recommend it. I hope that was helpful. Have fun.